Dominic D. Hargrove here. I am the Game Changer. I am the Slight Edge. And so are you. Welcome to the 4th episode of the Game Changer book review. Today we will be reviewing another book about the science of the brain, Who's in Charge? Free Will and the Science of the Brain by Michael Gazzaniga. Alright, so stay tuned. We're going to dive into this book. Page 30, the triune brain model hypothesized by Paul MacLean. In this model, the structure of the brain is based on its evolutionary development and is made up of 3 layers. The earliest reptilian layer, overlaid by the limbic system, with the newest layer, the neocortex, encircling the other 2. Basically, what he suggested was that as we evolved, we kept adding brain layers, just as you would add a car onto a train. I call it the train theory of evolution. They determined that the adult male human brain contains on average 86 billion neurons and 85 billion non-neuronal cells. And while the cerebral cortex is 82% of the brain's mass, it possesses only 19% of the brain's neurons. The majority of the neurons, 72%, were found in the cerebellum, which makes up 10% of the mass of the brain. Alright, a section here called Connectivity Changes. The past 40 years of research have shown that the human brain has billions of neurons organized into local, specialized circuits for specific functions, known as modules. For instance, in the human brain, an example of different circuits running in parallel and processing different inputs was demonstrated by a neuroimaging study done by Mark Rachel, Steve Peterson, and Mike Posner. One part of the brain reacts when you hear words. Another particular part of the brain reacts to seeing words. Still, another area reacts while speaking words. And they can all be going at the same time. Here we are, born with this wildly developing brain under tremendous genetic control, with refinements being made by epigenetic factors, which mean non-genetic factors that cause the organism's genes to behave differently, and activity-dependent learning. Continue, we have myriad cognitive abilities that are separated and spatially represented in different parts of the brain, each with different neural networks and systems. We also have systems running simultaneously in parallel, distributed throughout the brain. This means that our brains have multiple control systems, not just one. From this brain comes our personal narrative, not from some outside mental forces compelling the brain. So, we're learning the unity of the brain, how it works. Page 60, called What is Consciousness? Consciousness, the having of perceptions, thoughts, and feelings. Awareness, the term is impossible to define except in terms that are unintelligible without a grasp of what consciousness means. Consciousness is a fascinating but elusive phenomenon. It is impossible to specify what it is, what it does, or why it evolved. Nothing worth reading has been written about it. Now, you got to take this with a grain of salt. There are a lot of books out there, a lot of videos on YouTube about actually what is consciousness, the philosophy of it. So, something to research for your own personal understanding. 69, our brain's job description. What we always must keep in mind is that our brains, hence all these processes, have been sculpted by evolution to enable us to make better decisions that increase our reproductive success. Our brain's job description is to get its genes into the next generation. Very interesting. Page 107. Mental states that emerge from our neural actions do constrain the very brain activity that gave rise to them. Mental states such as beliefs, thoughts, and desires all arise from brain activity, and in turn can and do influence our decisions to act one way or the other. Mind over matter, baby. decades or so that the chaos theory was simmering in the background, it was quantum mechanics that had grabbed the headlines, and most physicists were focused on the microscopic, atoms, molecules, and subatomic particles. Crazy stuff happens in the quantum world. For instance, photons don't have mass, but angular momentum. Quantum theory was developed to explain why an electron stays in its orbit, which could neither be explained by Newton's laws nor Maxwell's laws of classical electromagnetism. Very deep stuff here. And if you're into some of the Egyptian building, how the pyramids and some of the temples were constructed in Egypt, this thought here about angular momentum is very interesting. It matches up if you do your research. So today we reviewed a very in-depth book by author Michael Gazzaniga about neurology, cognitive neuroscience, and the way the brain and mind is actually evolving. Who's in charge? Free will and the science of the brain. Right. Remember, you can email me at iamtheslightedge@gmail.com. iamtheslightedge@gmail.com. I really appreciate your emails on the relative subject. As you can see, the book review club is talking about how the brain works, how the brain is evolving, neurology, neuroscience, cognitive. We want to get us thinking again, get us working our brainstorm again for a positive solution. Remember, the purpose of eating is to communicate. Healthy diet, healthy brain. You can go to my website, iamtheslightedge.com, search The Perfect Pack, dealing with supplements to help bridge the gap within your diet. So the purpose of eating is to communicate. Healthy diet, healthy brain. iamtheslightedge.com, search The Perfect Pack. All right, talk to you later. See you on the next episode of the Game Changer Book Review. Peace.